And good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Pattison Ave Phantics show. I am Jim Scorza, filling in for Tom Kelly once again this week. With me, as always, the group of companions on this beautiful Saturday morning, Mr. Joey Marks.
Good Saturday morning, Philadelphia.
Frank Finnegan
will join us a little later.
Frank Finnegan will join us a little bit later. Cowboy Dave, what's going on?
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing?
Good. We are going to get into a lot of the Phillies sports topics that are going on this Saturday morning. We got the Phillies trying to make the postseason run. Eagles are in first place, and fall sports between the Sixers and Flyers are coming before we know it. But, Joe, you're the man of yellow. Where do we begin on this beautiful Saturday?
Oh, well,
first of all, Frank, can we hear you? No, you're muted.
So it's okay, James. You can unmute Frank. It's okay.
Frank? Can we hear you? You're still muted.
Oh shit.
We'll work on the technical difficulties, but we're going to kick it off with.
Sorry about that, guys.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh Lord, here we go.
And yes, here we go. And we had an amazing game on Monday night against the Vikings. And I just want to get all your reactions on whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether
Wait a minute. There's a game Monday night? Did I miss something?
No, yeah, there was a game Monday night. Actually, there was two, which was
there's two games Monday night. That's right, yeah.
So reactions for the Minnesota game. James, what was your reaction after the Minnesota game?
Well, let me be the first to say that it was an honor to be on the Painted Lines on the pregame show on Saturday.
You were on that show? Wow.
Yes, I was. And
okay.
It was actually a good fun time that night. And so my player of the game, I said Devontae Smith will have 5 or maybe 6 receptions, and he did not disappoint on Saturday. So I got to say that was a very impressive win. And also the one thing I liked about it too is that they made Justin Jefferson completely irrelevant. I guess you can say the right word to say that. And the one thing I liked about it too was that when Jefferson was getting stripped by Darius Slay, it's like, yeah, I think even though he's a third-year pro and he could be an upcoming star, but he's not there yet though. But it was a fantastic win. The defense played phenomenal. I was really concerned about Gaddon's approach, but overall, I think it was a very, very poised win by the Eagles on Monday night. Overall, both balanced offense and defense did very, very well.
Dave, what was your reaction? I mean, I know you're not talking it from the Eagles standpoint, you're talking it from the Cowboys standpoint, but what is your takeaways from the Vikings game?
I thought the second half defense for Minnesota was better than the first half because they didn't give it any points, which was good. But like I said, it was they took Jefferson away, which was that was half the battle right there. And we've seen Kirk Cousins before on Monday Night Football. You know, I mean, he is 2-9 on Monday night on primetime games. 2-10. I think 2-10 now.
I think he's 2-10.
Yeah, 2-10. Well, he was 2-9 at the time.
Yeah.
I get it. But like I said, Minnesota's the way I saw it, they didn't run Dalvin Cook enough. which I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to stick to the running game, and they didn't do that. And Kirk made some bad.
What's going on, buddy?
Kirk made some bad throws here and there, but I mean, like I said, it was, the second half defense both wise didn't give up anything. It was because it was the same score as the first at halftime, if you think about it. So Minnesota, I'm going to say, I still think they're for real. I just think it was just one of those nights where they just couldn't get it going because the Eagles' defense was just too strong. I'll stick with that.
So I had a lot that I was impressed with, but I still have some major concerns about the Eagles team. I want to start with the one major concern that I had even leaving Detroit, which was the offensive line. You know, the offensive line had 6 penalties for one of the best offensive lines in the league. 6 penalties that kind of took away some big plays. Illegal man downfield on the same guy, on Lander Dickinson twice within 2 consecutive drives. I was watching the game with my buddy, and I was literally saying, everyone on the offensive line has a penalty except Jason Kelce. Well, 20 minutes later, Jason Kelce had a penalty. So I'm like, okay, well, we have the whole offensive line joining in. And you have to clean that up. I mean, you cannot have dumb penalties on your best part of this team. And we all agree that the offensive line – yes.
We can hear you now. You're good. Welcome, Frank.
Welcome. So, you know –
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
You got me?
So,
yes.
Yep. So, you know, we all agreed that the offensive line was one of the biggest features to this team. And having 6 penalties just wasn't good enough, especially with the drawbacks of when those penalties came off of big plays most of the time. The other thing is, okay, I know we had 3 turnovers and I should be patting Jonathan Gannon on the back. I'm not there yet. The guy doesn't have the pressure, and you had a guy in Kirk Cousins that was forcing the ball to one receiver. I don't understand why you had 1 interception and a guy that probably could have 3 or 4 more interceptions in Darius Slay, while Kirk Cousins didn't go to someone else. I mean, clearly Slay has your number, so you have to adapt. And Kirk Cousins didn't. So I don't think it was Jonathan Gannon's scheme as much as it was Kirk Cousins' ineptitude as a quarterback. Frank, what's your takeaways from the Vikings game?
Well, I'm getting you guys spotty. Did you just ask me what was my take on the game?
Yeah, takeaways on the Vikings game.
My reception sucks here.
What's your takeaways with the Vikings game?
I think Jonathan Gannon called an excellent defensive game. I think the reason Cousins couldn't go to anybody else is because everybody else was covered.
Probably.
And the Eagles were applying massive amounts of pressure in the A gap and not giving him time to go to a check down on a second or third in a lot of instances.
Right.
So he was leaning on his best receiver to get the job done, and Slay was just better than him. You know,
that day he was. Yeah.
Yes, that day he was. That day he was. And as far as you know my caution about Jalen Hurts, Joe.
Jalen.
We'll get into that.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Well, before we get to that, Frank, real quick, that throw that Cousins made on the run and the guy dropped it. If he catches that, that's 6. That was a beautiful. That I don't know what I forget who it was who dropped. I don't remember his name at the time. But I mean,
that was 6.
Cousins
that was 6.
Cousins put that ball in the money. That thing was.
Yes, he did.
I mean, I just can't understand. Like if he catches that ball, it's different game.
But that being said, there were two lost interceptions that Slay had that would have been pick 6 the other way. They would have been pick 6 the other way. So
and those were the ones that I was referring to. The ones that James Harden referred to is that he had it in his hands twice, and it just happened to be the third time was the charm, and he picked it off on the third down. But So let's move on to that was Monday night. Let's move on to tomorrow. You got the Commanders, and you got Carson Wentz. Let me hear what the predictions. We'll do the scores a little later. But what do you think's going to happen in this game, Frank? I'll start with you.
Well, if it was any other team not in division, I'd say the Eagles would cakewalk. But this is Washington. They always give us fits. The scores are the games are usually always one score, maybe 10 points. They're never really blowouts. I think the Eagles are not going to have a hard time winning this game. I think they're going to win the game. I think Carson's going to score in garbage time. I don't think Carson's going to be an issue. I think the Eagles are going to get him. I think the Eagles will win the game, and I think they're going to win it pretty comfortably. But like I said, there'll be late scores by Washington to keep it close.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. I don't think Carson's going to have like one of those games where you're like he's going to make sure that he's going to make a statement against the Eagles. Like overall, I don't think he's going to make any statement at all. I think it might be just maybe like Jalen Hurts' breakout game tomorrow. In my opinion, I think the biggest thing I like about it.
What I liked about what Gannon did last week, and it's going to affect this week's game, is he wasn't just relying on the front four to get pressure. He was bringing pressure from everywhere. He was bringing pressure from the linebackers. He was bringing pressure from the safeties. He was getting pressure from the D line when he needed it. I don't. If he's going to call defenses like this the rest of the year and spread it around, the Eagles are going to be damn unbeatable in this division.
Well, they're going to be hard. They'll definitely be hard to beat. That's for sure. Yeah.
I mean, here's my feeling, and this is why I'm not ready yet to pat Jonathan Gannon on the back.
Neither am I. But that was their best performance.
No, I agree.
Who's Blue City Empire Sports? Read that, James.
Yeah, sure. I have a question. What is more intense? Dominic McNabb? You mean Donovan McNabb playing for Washington versus the Eagles, or Carson Wentz playing for Washington versus the Eagles?
Carson.
Wow.
I'm going to say Carson.
Because Donovan didn't have a lot more tread on his tires.
No, but he had worn out. He had really worn out his welcome here.
Right, Donovan's at the end of his career at that point. Yeah,
he really wore out his welcome here. Where Carson, I think there's some people in this town that still believed he had potential and left too early.
I mean, listen, my dad, who when he was alive, my dad, he was a diehard Washington fan,
right.
And when Donovan got put onto the team, my dad might as well threw his hands up and said, "Okay, the season's over." I'm like the season's over. I'm not going to what am I supposed to do now? And you kind of go from a Donovan McNabb to a Mark Brunell, and then it's like, okay, why can't we just bring in a guy? And when he had RG3, he had high hopes,
right?
And as well he should have. But with Carson, he still has a lot. Look, I know I make fun of him, and I call him Charbon Wentz, and all of that. But he's a talented guy. He's just a bone.
Look, he still has the ability.
No, he does.
And he does.
He does. And so
he,
that's the difference. I think it's going to be a more competitive matchup between Hurts and Wentz in comparison to a McNabb or whoever else we had. I think it's going to be a more competitive matchup. And I want to go back to for a minute, because the reason why I don't want to pat Jonathan Gannon on the back quite yet is that I'm greedy. I want sacks. I don't want just
you are greedy.
I want sacks. I want the quarterback on the ground.
You're going to get it this week.
I hope so.
Go ahead,
Dave. I'm going to go to you. What's your take? What do you think's going to happen this Sunday against the Commanders and the Eagles?
I think Washington keeps the ball on the ground. I think they're going to run Antonio Gibson a lot this week. Because they got to keep Carson healthy. Because if they don't, if that defense gets to him, he's in trouble. So keep Antonio Gibson, let him run, do his thing. Keep the tight ends. tight ends healthy, and I think you might see McLaurin have a few nice catches too. If they don't put Slay on McLaurin, I think McLaurin will have a pretty good game too. Just like I said, keep the ball on the ground. That's what Washington has to do. They got to run the ball.
So,
if Dalvin Cook can't do anything against the Eagles front, what is he going to do?
Well, I think that was primetime game. People were pumped up. This is a Monday. This is a Monday night. Things are going to change.
Okay, but this is a division game. Those players
I get
are going to
it,
be pumped up.
But it's not primetime. It's not a primetime division game though. So I'm thinking, both teams might be able to run the ball. Yeah, but I think Antonio Gibson he's got to keep him on the ground and let him go. Let him run.
Yeah, Dave.
That's going to be their plan, I think.
Right, exactly. You got to keep Carson healthy because if you don't, it's going to be a long day.
Dave, Dave and Frank, you bring up a great point. Tomorrow, the Eagles travel down to Washington. James, do we have anything going on tomorrow?
Yes, we do. We got a Philly
Fans
sports trips going on tomorrow, rather, and that is the very day, September the 25th, 2022, and that is including against the Washington Commanders at
FedEx Field.
At FedEx Field. And includes bus trip, including lower level tickets, bus, food, drink, and entertainment for only $325. So I hope everybody that is going to go down there and enjoy it because it's going to be a fun ride for that. And for anybody out there that gets a little bit testy with a Commanders fan, you can check out David Archeri's Esquire and David Archeri for workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, criminal law. Give them a call at 610-565-0300 and make sure that you tell that Pattison Ave and EOP sent you.
Now, to give it a little caveat more to the Philly sports trips, but Vince is a great guy and the company is a great organization. If you are already heading down to Washington, D.C. to see Sharman Wentz fall on his ass, you can don't worry about packing up the grill. Don't worry about packing up the beer. Just go down there with $100, $150. You go down there. You meet up with Philly sports trips. They're doing a tailgate. We have 1,200 people from EOP alone that are going down to Washington, D.C. And Vince, the owner for Philly Sports Trips, has booked his own lot. So, yes, Philly fans, Eagles fans, we have our own parking lot in Landover, Maryland. So
I heard Al say the other day that they had 15 buses going down. That's what I heard.
Yes. Get your car, get your tickets, go down there. Don't worry about anything else. Philly Sports Trips will feed you and get you nice and lathered before the game starts. But more to that point, next week when we are playing Jacksonville, join us at South House at 2543. No, that's my address. Never mind.
What was that again? 2543.
What was that? Everybody to Joey's house.
Joey's got the keg.
That's my address. Anyhow, 13th and Porter between 13th Street between Porter and Shunk. Join us next week at South House for pregame and postgame for the Eagles versus the Jaguars game. It's a great time, great food. Please don't come to my house. I have no food.
Their wings are outstanding. Their wings are outstanding, and then it's dinner at Joe's house afterwards.
Yes, clearly.
Sarah, we're on our way.
Yeah. All right. So,
Exactly.
if you're not going to South House and you are wanting to do something with Philly Sports Trips during all home games, go to the Gatehouse at the Navy Yard and pay that $150 and get a full tailgate experience. Okay, let's get back into the game at hand.
Thank you, Joey.
Tomorrow, Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts. The matchup of former Eagle versus new Eagle. The
starter versus backup.
The former franchise versus the new franchise.
The new franchise.
Breakdown, guys. What do you think this matchup? How do you think this is going to play out? Dave, you already feel like this is going to be a possible running game on Washington's benefit. Do you feel like Carson is not going to be a factor at all?
Oh, he'll be a factor. I'm just saying they got to keep him. The offensive line his offensive line has really got to keep him strong, because if they don't, man, that Eagles front four is going to get him good. But I'm just saying, just keep the ball on the ground. That's what Washington has to do. Just keep the ball on the ground and use your tight ends. I know Washington has a couple good tight ends. I know they do. And like I said, get McLaurin in the game, and it could be a different ball game. But time will tell. I don't know.
Well,
I look at it this way.
I look at it this way. Washington's defense is not real good.
No, they're not. No,
they're not real good. And I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of what you saw last week, which impressed the hell out of me with Jalen Hurts. He didn't force the ball to anybody.
No,
not one time. Mm-hmm. And the proof in the pudding of that is, like, they didn't come close to intercepting him, because he was hitting the open guy. I mean, his first 5 passes were to 5 different receivers.
Well, in the first half he was. Second half it wasn't so much, I didn't think.
No, well, I mean, they changed their defense a little bit, but they still played that shell defense because they didn't have the cover guys to cover all the Eagles players, and Washington does not have the cover guys. I mean, I think Hurts is going to have an incredible game. He really is. And I think Carson, because as he's prone to do, holds the ball too long. So this is going to lead to Joey getting his sack registers up there, because they're going to get him on coverage sacks.
He is smart. Look at him. Look, he's smiling like there's no tomorrow. Look at him. Oh my God.
That kid's in his moment right there.
For your sake, Joe, you better hope to God that he doesn't throw 3 touchdowns for 330 like he did last week.
Who, Carson?
Yeah,
he threw for 4.
He may. Hey, Dave. He may throw 3 touchdowns for 330, but he's going to throw interceptions, and he's going to fumble the ball. That's what he does. He
because Washington came back in that game last week. As bad as they were out, they made a game out of it.
Of course they did, because they have a really good offense, but their defense
they do.
Sucks.
I'm going to let you give me your opinion on the matchup, James, in a minute, but I want to tap into something Frank said. So yes, Jalen Hurts did well, but did you notice that there was one pass? I knew you were gonna say that.
I saw this coming a mile away.
Joe,
oh God,
Joe, let me ask you a question, Joe. Was that a bullet or was that a wobbling duck?
But did he or did he not hit?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
For 53.
Joey, there was not a Minnesota uniform within 25 yards of that pass.
Hang on.
But no,
seriously,
Watkins didn't have to wait for the ball. Watkins didn't have to wait for the ball.
I was told that he doesn't have the arm strength for that. What does that have to do with the defender or the wobbly pass? He got it there.
Joe, all last season on passes that he threw long, the receivers had to wait on the ball to get there all season long. Okay.
Right.
Watkins didn't wait on this, which tells me that Jalen did a lot of work in the offseason. His arm is obviously a little bit stronger. He was throwing with a little more command. I got to give it to him. He made a great pass, although it was a wobbly little duck. But Watkins wasn't waiting on it. He was running, and it hit him in stride. And I mean, he impressed the hell out of me. But I'm not going to pass judgment until the end of the season. I want to see he goes against better defenses, because Minnesota's defense sucks. Washington's defense sucks. When he plays against a better defense and he completes those passes, then I'm going to be sold completely.
Sure.
I want him. Joe, nobody wants him other than you. Nobody wants him more to succeed than I do, simply because I want to go into next year's draft with that capital at the top of the draft to get us the monster edge rusher to go with the middle guy. So, I mean, I just feel that there are places that we could fill. If he is the guy for us for the next 5 to 8 years, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled, because they have the weapons around him now. There's no excuses. He's got all the weapons he needs. And I mean, that defense last week, I mean, Kazir White was they better sign that kid to a long contract and get him off this 1-year deal, because he was unbelievable last week. Kazir White was everywhere. And
I'll say T.J. Edwards was everywhere too.
So yeah,
I mean,
T.J. Edwards. And here's the thing, they haven't even put the Kobe Dean in the plan yet, so he's learning slow.
Yeah,
he's learning slow, which is great because when they do release him, he's going to be ready.
I think that's a bullet. I think that's a bullet in the chamber that they're just waiting.
Well, I mean, they can develop him. They can take their time with him. They don't have to put a rookie out there in the middle, not knowing what he's doing, and subject themselves to a coverage blow up because he called the wrong defense. They're going to let this kid develop on his own because they can. Now, if their linebackers get an injury, then he's going to be forced into play. But I would, if they can go 6 weeks without having to use him as the middle linebacker calling defenses, and he gets to learn the system and learn how it goes, you're right. That's not a bullet. That's a howitzer.
Yeah.
You're saving a cannon.
So James,
Jay, real quick, I thought Miles Sanders looked good on Sunday.
He did.
I thought he looked really good.
Miles Sanders looked great on Sunday. He looked great.
He did.
He's playing for a contract, though. You know that.
Yep.
He's playing for a contract.
Look, he had 17 carries for 80 yards, no touchdowns. I'm still not convinced.
Still not a bad day for Miles Sanders, though.
No, but I'm still not convinced he's the cow. The bell cow of this running back room.
Right.
Because he gets those soft tissue injuries. It's hard to rely on him.
Right.
But it was how he ran last week. It wasn't how many yards he got. He didn't two-step behind the line. He went to the hole and just ran.
Which he should do.
Right. Which he hadn't done before.
Yeah.
He was very patient behind the line last week. He waited for his openings to develop, and once they developed, he went through them.
I felt the same way about LaShawn McCoy when he was here. If in the beginning he would hit that hole and he couldn't be stopped, and then towards the end of his tenure here, it felt like he was dancing too much, and it's like, no, just hit the hole. You're shady. Just hit the hole. And I think Miles is going the inverse. He was that guy who danced to try and make something happen, and all you have to do is trust your blockers. All you have to do is trust the guys in front of you.
Right.
So, James, I'll go to you. What's your opinion on this Wentz matchup?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
No, James. He went to James.
Okay. Yeah, I think the thing that what Carson Wentz needs to be Carson Wentz of the old more than anything. I think the one thing I liked what Jalen Hurts did very well last week was that he was like a lot better with his passing than he was last year. I think that's the biggest thing I took out of it. And even his like pass reads were like very they were not like sitting ducks, I guess you could say. But overall, I think it was a very good successful game for him. And overall, I think it was a very good intriguing matchup for Hurts. And I think the one thing that Hurts needs to do now is that he needs to continue making himself into an elite quarterback more than anything. And I think that's the biggest thing I took out of it is that he showed a lot of poise than he did last year.
Okay, so going into what the NFL now sees the Eagles as, I'm going to propose this question to you guys. The Eagles have now climbed up the power rankings, are now a top 5 team in the NFL. Do you feel like the Eagles, and I know I'll go to Dave first to get the pill out of the hand, but do you feel like the NFL is overhyping the Eagles' success to this point?
It's only week 2. How can you sit there and say, I mean, come on. We're going into week 3. I mean,
are they a top 5 team?
Though, Dave.
Are they a top 5 team?
I can look good in 2 weeks too, James. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it feels like
it's week 3, guys. Come on, it's not like it's week 10.
Yeah, and so with the way football is run today, you can't make those assessments until you have to get past week 4 because literally they're playing a mocked up preseason right now.
It's a week to week league, guys. You know that. I mean.
Well, is it overhyped?
Are they usually? Yeah, they're overhyped right now.
Okay,
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll lead this into. So me and James looked up different power rankings for Jalen Hurts, and right now He, in some power rankings, he's ranked 18th or 19th. And in NFL.com, he's ranked 9th. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I don't know how you can rank these guys this early. I don't get it. I just don't understand.
See, and by the same token, there was a ranking that came out this week, Joe, that had him third in MVP voting right now. Okay, so it's way too early to tell this.
It's a 17-week league, guys. You guys know that. It's only week 3.
I would say 9 is fair. I mean, if Jalen Hurts winds up at the end of the season between 8 and 14 with quarterbacks, we're going deep in the playoffs. There's no two ways about it.
Dave, where would you rank? Go for it.
If he finishes in the power rankings around 18th or 19th, we're out in the first round. That means he didn't have a good year. But if he's between 8 and 14, we're good.
Dave, where would you rank Jalen Hurts?
It's tough to call because there's so many good quarterbacks in the league. I mean, Justin Herbert's playing well. There is. I mean, it's tough. Justin Herbert's playing well. Mahomes is playing well. It's tough. It's tough to figure out. Allen's on another level. This kid, my God,
they're winning the Super Bowl this year. That team's winning the Super Bowl.
Even Burrows isn't playing that great, but he's still on a high level. He's in that category. Russell Wilson, I don't know what's going on with him. I can't figure him out right now. Aaron Rodgers is there.
Russ is just not. I don't think Russ is acclimated yet.
Right, and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he played well the other night too, the other day. If I had to rank Jalen Hurts right now, I would put him in the top 10 or 10 to 12. 10 to 12.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think that's fair. What?
What do you
what?
No, like Pat's.
Oh, Pat's finger. I've had enough of him for the last 24 hours.
You're a trip, man. Anyway, good morning, pal.
No, like I said, I would
maybe
put
he needs some alone time.
Between 10 and 12. I think that's fair.
James, where would you rank? Where would you rank Jalen Hurts right now?
After 3 games, I got to put him in my top 5. I think he's.
Of course you would. Why wouldn't you? It's you.
Look, I'll be one of the guys like Frank. I was like Frank last year. I wasn't too impressed by what Hurts did, but then he showed me some poise, and I think
it's week 3. What do you? Come on. Seriously?
I understand that, but it's
obviously you don't. Obviously you don't because you can. Does Josh Allen Rodgers? Come on.
And he's not on that same. And he's not in
no,
that
he's not.
pedestal?
No, he is not.
So
not yet. Not there yet.
You can't put him in the top 5.
Not in the top 5.
No.
Not even close.
But 9 is fair. After what he did the first 2 weeks, 9 is fair.
I said 10 to 12. That's fair.
Would you agree with that, Dave? Dave, would you agree?
Yes.
That after the first 2 weeks, 9 is fair.
9 to 12. That's fine. I'm good.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair.
All right. I mean, at least you didn't say 9 to 18. I mean,
no, I'm not going that far. But
yeah, that's
look.
True.
He's still stinging from.
He can throw 3 picks tomorrow for all you know, and then all of a sudden he's back to where he was before.
So, no, he's not. He's not going to throw 3 picks. He's not going to.
I'm saying he could. I didn't say he would.
Yeah.
All right. So this is how I feel. And
shut up, Dave.
And Dave, this is why I feel like your point is a little bit moot. Like I agree with Frank in the sense that this is still kind of like a bona fide preseason.
Yes.
This is the warming up period.
Yeah, they're still feeling it out. They're still feeling it out.
Sure.
However, my feeling is you have the power rankings. You're getting judged. This is when the stats matter and everything counts. So I read it as it is. I don't try to over analyze just that it's been 2 weeks. What I'm saying is from what I've seen so far, that's how I'm evaluating it. What I've seen so far, Jalen Hurts is one of the top 5, if not the 5th best quarterback in the league. I would put Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes. I would put Herbert and Lamar Jackson up there at 1 through 4, and Jalen Hurts at number 5. Just because of the performances that they have done up to
honestly,
this point.
I would put Derek Carr in front of Jalen Hurts right now. That's just me. Seriously.
Why?
Because he's better.
How is he better?
Has he played better this year?
He sees the field better than what Hurts does.
Right, but has he, like Frank said, has he played better this year?
Yes, he's had some good games. Yes. Derek Carr's I have him for fantasy. He's been great on my bench.
Derek Carr, really?
Yes, Derek Carr. Yes.
Wait.
Really?
He's been great on your bench.
No,
So
no,
he's good,
He's better.
but he's
no.
underrated.
Time out. I played him this past weekend. He did
I
well
heard
for me.
that too.
I didn't have him in week 1 because I had Dak and he got hurt. So sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
No, he played well for me.
You took Dak in your fantasy draft.
Well, yeah, I was there. I had to.
My feeling is this:
Hey,
is that
Derek Carr's
will
back is
that
not a bad fantasy squad.
Will that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not taking fantasy advice from you, Dave. But will my power rankings change? Will the power rankings change? Sure, because as Frank said, Jalen's going to play better defenses. Maybe he's not playing a better defense this coming week, but he's going to play better defenses, and that is when the real metal is going to really be tested. But if I'm evaluating things for the first 2 games, yes, he's top 5. I'm not evaluating what he's going to be 5 weeks from now. I'm evaluating what I've seen so far. He is a top 5 quarterback.
And here's my, and I mean, Joe, I'm going to go back to my old argument with Jalen Hurts. What he did Sunday was he threw to the open guy, and there were plenty of open guys. But I still haven't seen him throw a guy open. Okay,
well,
I haven't seen him throw.
You did say he threw Quez open, so
what's that?
You did say he threw Quez open.
No, Quez was wide open. There
was
nobody within 10 yards.
Defense within 25 yards of Quez when he caught the ball.
No,
one.
He did not. Quez beat his guy off the
safety bit on the play. That's why he was so wide open.
Okay, but
he was 10 yards past them before.
What would you rather do? Throw a guy open or throw to the open receiver?
Hey, Fuge.
No, well, look. I mean, of course you want him to hit the open receiver. But what makes a great quarterback great is a pass that nobody sees coming, not even the defense, because he throws to a spot and the receiver gets there. Okay, right. Everybody can predict the open. I mean, every quarterback in the league is going to take what the defense gives them. It's when the defense is not expecting that pass and he throws to a spot and says, "Look, I'm throwing it to the 35-yard hash. I don't care how you get there, but that's where that ball's going to be." Okay.
But wouldn't you not agree that the criticism for Jalen Hurts is that he's not reading the field very well? And if he's throwing the ball to the wide open receiver more frequently in the last 2 weeks, then isn't he reading the field better?
He's reading the field better, but see, I don't think he has a full. I don't think he is fully enveloped into the offense yet, because this is only his second season.
He said that himself.
Right. So when he gets, and I hope it happens before the end of the year, because if it does, then they become world beaters. If he starts throwing to guys who don't look like they're open and all of a sudden they're 30 yards down the field catching a pass, that's Carson Wentz before he got hurt. He was throwing passes to guys who didn't appear to be open, and all of a sudden, boom, they got a half a step 30 yards deep and they were wide open because he threw the guy open. There's a big difference, Joe. There's a big difference in taking what the defense gives you and just, okay, I'm following the trail, or I got him, boom, it's open, there's a 10-yard pass. No. This is a 30-yard pass where the guy's covered, and all of a sudden he turns around to look for the ball, and the ball's already on its way, and the wide receiver goes, "See ya," and he catches it because he threw it to the spot and the receiver got there. Throwing a guy. That
says basically what you're saying, Joey. He's like, Jalen Hurts is an accurate quarterback when he throws. And he throws a deep ball to Watkins, answers a lot of the critics. And I agree with that. And I think that's the biggest thing I take out of that game.
It begins to answer a lot of the critics. Absolutely. It answers me for sure that he hit a 53-yard pass and Watkins didn't have to wait for the ball. That impressed me. And Joe, I'm not going to say, "Hey, I told you so" at the end of the year when he has a great year. I'm never going to do that. I'm always going to back up the fact that I doubted this at the beginning. I'm always going to say that I did. And I just wanted to be proved wrong. And mea culpa at the end of the year, I'll do the mea culpa and say, I was wrong, But so far this year, he's proving me wrong. He's shutting me up, and I'm happy about it.
And listen, this is a guy that, even saying in this perspective with Jalen Hurts, and I agree with Frank in the sense that if he proves those people wrong, just imagine where what plateau that puts this team in going forward. Not just for next year's capital, but going forward because, okay, everyone's talking about the possibility of a contract. And even me as a Jalen Hurts fan, I'm not ready to give the contract. I don't want to pull the Carson Wentz card. I don't want to give it to him before I see everything. I have the allotted ability to see him thrive and let him earn it. If he takes us really far, I'll pay him. I'll cut the check. I don't care. But when we cut the check too early with Carson, we paid for it in the end. I want to see what Jalen got.
They actually have another season to do this. They could franchise him at the end of the year.
Yes.
And I don't foresee the Eagles doing that because they don't like that kind of conflict on their team. They have never under Howie, they have never proceeded that way. They have never put a player in a position where it's antagonistic to the rest of the team. If they foresee him in week 12, 13, 14 as being the guy, they're going to sign him. But then again, by 12, 13, 14, we may all go sign that guy before it's too late.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. So
everyone's going to feel that pressure because as it gets closer to the end of the season, we're going to feel like we're going to miss the window. And I don't believe
the most promising thing about this is, as I said a couple minutes ago, I don't think he's fully enveloped into the offense yet. This is why the first week he leaned on A.J. Brown, and then last week Minnesota took A.J. Brown away, so he went to Devontae Smith a lot last week. And I mean, he did spread the ball all over the place. No, it's when he can break the huddle and go, okay, which one of you wants the ball? Because that's who I'm going to hit. When he gets to that point, and that's what I mean by throwing a guy open, where he can go to the line of scrimmage and before he goes to the line of scrimmage, say, hey, Goddard, look, I'm going to throw the ball 6 yards deep. That linebacker is going to be on you, but that ball's going to be waiting for you. So be ready, And I mean, it's too late for the linebacker to react once the ball is there. That's the kind of passing I want to see from him. And I think that's a product of being more developed into the offense than it is being ready to throw that ball. Not every quarterback in the league comes in, and it takes time for them to acclimate themselves to the NFL. It may have taken him a little bit longer because he doesn't have the arm strength that a guy like Rodgers was blessed with, or a guy like Russ was blessed with. But I'll tell you this, it's obvious that he worked on it in the offseason. It's very obvious.
That's the thing too. I'm sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
No, I said basically, like, I look at Kyler Murray as basically another. Actually, Jalen Hurts into like a Kyler Murray passing league because like early on in Kyler Murray's career, he didn't know how to throw the ball well, and then when he got better at it, the same thing with Hurts is that now he's a better accurate thrower. But I think Hurts is probably a better tool because I think he found, like you said, those mechanics and he worked on them in the preseason. I'm not in the preseason, but in the off season. And I think that's the biggest thing about it too.
I mean, to chime in on your Kyler Murray comparison, think about when Kyler finally got a talented receiver like a DeAndre Hopkins. Look what that did for his career. Look what that did for his maturity. Look what that did for what he wants to do.
You know what I'm really waiting for, Joe? You know what I'm waiting for? Everybody knows that Jalen Hurts can run, right? What I'm waiting for is when he takes 2 steps and looks like he's going to run and freezes the defense and then stops and throws, and there's wide open people, because that's going to happen.
Yep,
that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
He's going to roll out like he's going to run, and they're going to have 3 guys coming after him. He's going to stop and throw and hit somebody wide open 5 yards downfield, and then they're really going to be shaking their head because they won't know how to stop him.
I mean, and that's the thing is when that kind of thing happens, you freeze the safety. And when you freeze that safety, that allows for any kind of out pattern or stop and go pattern to really get wide open. And that's why I said, like, I'd rather hit the wide open receivers because I feel like as he starts to mature, those guys are going to become more wide open because he's going to fool the defense more frequently than not. And
I remember when Kurt Warner was playing with the Rams. they did a breakdown of him passing, and they put this box up on the screen of windows that he was hitting with guys who were covered, and he was throwing right through those windows, and the defenders were there, and the passes were caught because the wide receivers knew those passes were going to be there.
Right.
That's what I'm waiting to see with him.
Yeah. So, boys, it's prediction time. James, I'll start with you. Give me the score and who's going to win for the Eagles versus the Commanders.
Well, I mean, even though these NFC East games are really close, I got to say I don't want to say it's going to be close like I thought it was last week, but I think it's going to be probably like a 10-point Eagles win. So I got to say 27-17 Eagles.
Dave?
I don't. Dave's not on the line.
Dave left.
Yeah.
All right, Frank, what's your prediction?
I don't see Washington keeping the Eagles under 30. I don't. I see minimum 31-24, and it won't be that close in the fourth quarter, but Washington will make it that close. I think the Eagles will have a commanding lead, but Washington's going to make it interesting at the end. I think you're going to see Carson give the ball up at least twice, and that'll kill him.
Me and you, Frank, are kind of simpatico right now. It's kind of eerie to me.
Wait, what?
Well, we're simpatico a little bit.
No, we can't be agreeing. That can't happen.
No. So, I have the Eagles. I don't see the Commanders' defense is ranked almost last in the league. I think that this team, the Eagles' offense, if you're seeing it against defenses that are okay, and I mean like middle of the road, what's going to happen when they play against the defense? I mean, we're talking about defenses that are good. What happens when they play like the last place defense or close to the last place defense like the Commanders? Well, Here's my feeling. I agree with everything you guys have said. NFC East, I always feel like this is always a gunfight. I just don't think Carson has the firepower. 34-24 Eagles on top.
Okay.
I don't see the Commanders holding the Eagles offense under 30. I just don't. I unless it's self-inflicted wounds. Like I said earlier, unless the Eagles offense have too many stupid penalties to take away big plays, if it's self-inflicted wounds, then I could see it on the 30. But if they don't, I see this kind of going off the chain.
I have a question. I have a question on special teams. Have we seen enough Quez Watkins returning kickoffs?
No, and I think we need to.
Yeah. No, we've seen enough. I have seen enough Quez Watkins on kickoffs. I don't want to see any more.
It's not Quez Watkins. It was Cubby.
Cubby's doing punt returns.
Oh, okay. So you mean kick returns.
Yeah, no, Cubby is doing you're right. Cubby's doing the kick returns. Quez Watkins is doing the punt returns. No, that's right. Cubby's doing punt returns. No, they got Quez Watkins on kick returns, and I'm not happy about it because he doesn't run like a kick returner. He does.
I still felt like they should have kept the sprinter for both the punt returns and the kick returns because that's where you can shoot the guy out of the cannon. Like, let him run.
I'm worried about the Eagles special teams. I'm worried about that. I don't think they're playing well.
I would agree because I also feel like they're not playing well with tackling once they kick a punt like within the 20.
Yeah, no. I don't. Their special teams need work. They really do.
Yeah. All right, so boys, there's another sports team that's in this city that's going for a playoff push. It is the hunt for Red October, and we are talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. Last night, the Phillies trounced the Atlanta Braves 9-1, and you had another victory by Aaron Nola, which we were all worried about his September slumps. He doesn't seem like that's really happening.
I was in transit all day. How far did he go in the game?
I want to say 6 innings, six and a half, or 6 2/3, I believe. I
He's up
kind
to
of
10
watched
wins,
the
right?
highlight.
He's up to 10 wins, right?
Yes, I believe he is. Yes.
Getting to my numbers. We're getting to my numbers.
Yeah. Yep. So my question to you guys, are the Phillies getting hot at the right time towards the end of September, going into October, or are they just piecing together some good games? Frank,
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Your hunt for Red October was looking like a snipe hunt last week. Okay, when they lost 7 games in a row or 6 games in a row, it wasn't looking good. Okay, the fact that they came back the way they did against a really good Toronto team and stole that game, and then came back and won the first 2 games against the Braves, gives me a little hope. It gives me a little hope. If they can get one more win this weekend out of the Braves. See, the problem with the Phillies is they got a 9-game road trip. Okay, and I really hope they don't need those games in Houston to ice their spot in the playoffs. I really, really hope that it comes down to Houston becomes unnecessary. Because if they have to go to Houston and win, and Houston is still trying to jockey with the Yankees for a first place spot and get that first seed, it's going to be an ugly weekend in Houston, and that scares me a little bit because they're going to be at the end of a 9-game road trip playing in Houston. And then they're going to start the playoffs and have to start on the road. The Phillies, after the next 2 Atlanta games, won't be home for 15 days. That's scary.
They may not even be home unless they get to the second round of the playoffs.
That's right. They might not get home until they start the second round of the playoffs. And that sucks because, I mean, there's a lot of fans in Philly who would love to see a playoff game in Philly. But that may not be possible until the second round. And that depends on who they play in the first round. And I hope I really don't want them to play St. Louis in the first round. And the reason is St. Louis is going to have time to set up their pitching staff because they've iced their division, where the Mets and the Braves will not have that luxury. They will be jockeying for position right down to the end of the season. And they're going to have to shoot their bullets in those last 3 games against each other, and the Phillies will be playing a team that isn't pitching their best guys in the first 2 games. And they could steal that series. They could steal that series in the first 2 games. They really could, if they catch the Mets or the Braves.
It's interesting to me because I watched that game last night, and it's kind of like the parody of what happened last week with the Braves in Atlanta. It's like, okay, will the real Philadelphia Phillies team please stand up? Because I'm not entirely sure which one is going to be what we see in October. Because I still have firm beliefs that we're going to make the playoffs. I really do. James, do you feel like this is the beginning of a hot streak, or do you feel like it's just them piecemealing some good games together?
Yeah, I think the one thing I looked at it too was like last week was a little bit concerning when they were losing those games. It was just like now it's just like I think like for me, I think it's just like you either like get in and like let the chips fall wherever it goes and see wherever they like play against. But overall, I think I mean I didn't see much of the game last night, but Noah did a fantastic job according to like it looked like he did a real good job. Defense is coming back around again, but the one big concern I gotta say is really the concern more than anything is that Harper just looks very, very.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's he's in sync.
No, he doesn't look like he is in sync. That's exactly right.
That segues into my next question, which is, do you guys think he's going to get out of his slump before we hit the playoffs?
I think he will. I think the Braves picked absolutely the worst time in the season for their bats to go stone cold because they are stone cold right now. They can't afford to lose these games to the Phillies, and they are not performing at the plate at all. That being said, Harper, who is stone cold, is being supported by JT Realmuto and the bottom half of that lineup. The bottom half of that lineup, I mean, I can't believe what's coming out of that bottom half of that lineup right now. Those kids are playing like somebody lit a fire in their ass, and they're playing great ball. Those kids are playing great ball. Now, the good thing about Harper being cold now is the next 2 teams we're playing against, he absolutely feasts on. So maybe we can get his bat hot in those two series before we go to Houston and before we go into the playoffs, and then he'll be okay. But right now he's struggling a little bit. But I mean, Harper's going to be Harper, and he's always going to be dangerous, and they're always going to pitch carefully around Harper because they all know that if they leave a ball hanging on Harper, it's gone, or he's going to make very good contact. So I just think
I feel like if he hits, like you're saying, if Harper can hit 4 or 5 home runs before the end of the season, he'll get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not just the home runs, but it's just his bat speed. He's got to get his bat speed back to mid-season form, and it's not there yet. And I knew that him coming off the IL would have been a struggle. Like I knew that coming out of the gate.
I was worried about that too. That he wasn't going to have that first half form that he had.
Yeah.
Batting 325, 330. Because
Yeah.
he was killing it. He was killing it before he got hurt. He was absolutely killing it.
And Chet on our group text made an excellent point. It's weird that you would think that Matt Vierling would have more prowess at the plate now. You'd be more eager to see him at the plate than you would Bryce Harper. And that's a great anecdote to what these youngsters have done for this team. If it weren't for these youngsters,
it just makes them tough outs.
Yes. If it weren't for these youngsters, I don't know if we're in the position we're in. I don't think we're even sniffing the playoffs.
What's the word on Castellanos? See, that's another thing I'm worried about. That Castellanos, who was swinging the bat pretty well before he went out, is going to come back, and he's not going to be ready for postseason.
See, I feel like they're doing a bad thing by not I'm not sure if he's better or not because it's an oblique strain. So I'm not sure if they're holding him back so he doesn't aggravate it, or if they're holding him back just to wait to the playoffs. But you got to understand, this isn't like most sports. Guys need reps, and they need to see live pitching.
No, you got to stay in a groove. Yeah, you got to stay in a groove. But you can't throw him in at the end of the year and expect him to play productively.
Right. You can't expect him to bat 300 just coming off the bench cold. You just can't. James, what do you think about Bryce Harper? Do you think he's going to come out of this slump before the playoffs?
It's a very good question. I mean, the one thing like I said, about the Harper thing is that maybe they probably give him some more time, basically to get his group back in form. I guess that's the right thing I could say about it. I guess the other thing I could say is maybe you have to put him in the knife hole, because that's where everybody knows how to hit properly well. Is that if you hit him in the knife hole, maybe he'll probably come back out of his slump. I don't know. I mean, but it's a very good question to have.
You can't put Harper in the bottom of the lineup. He has to be on top where he can hit more times.
No, I know.
Segura, I love when they put Segura at the bottom of the lineup because it scares the shit out of opposing pitchers that a guy with his professional approach at the plate is at the bottom when they're counting on getting outs, and all of a sudden Segura comes up and it's like, oh well, we can't count on an out here, and they start tiptoeing around the bottom of the lineup, and that's why I think the guys at the bottom of the lineup are feasting because they drop a guy like Segura into the 7 hole, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we can't throw him something, so we got to tap. I mean, Vierling has made himself a solid hitter. I mean, he's not a world beater, but he's a tough out now. He's a tough out. And so Stott. Stott's a tough out too.
We talked about this past week, they named the Philly of the Year in Derek Hall. And it's proof that even with these youngsters, they've contributed significant at-bats and significant moments to this season.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you guys, okay, Derek Hall was named the Philly of the Year, but who would you guys consider the Philly of the Year? Frank?
I'm thinking, and I'm going to have to say this, and he had a really rough start to his season, but it's JT. JT has really, really brought himself back. He's a formidable. I mean, defensively, forget it. I mean, He needs one more base. He needs one more stolen base, unless he got it last night. I don't know whether he did, to become only the second catcher in history to have 20 home runs and 20 steals in the same season.
Behind Pudge Rodriguez. Yep.
Yep, he'd be the only the second guy. That's pretty rare. That's pretty rare atmosphere there to be in.
Yeah.
I think JT, his second half has really covered up the fact that Bryce Harper and Segura have missed most of the second half. Really covered it up. And I mean, when Harper and Segura were out, I thought, oh, the Phillies are going to fall. They just don't have it. But him and actually Castellanos got hot at that time. I think it's got to be JT. I think JT has been the best player, at least since the All-Star break. So I got to give it to him. You know, Schwarber would have been my guess had he maintained some of the heat that he had in June, but he kind of, he tailed off, and his batting average is still. I mean, he still plays like Dave Kingman. It's either a home run or a strikeout. And I love the guy. He's great. He's the best beer league softball player I've ever seen play for the Phillies. It's fun.
James, who do you have as your Philly of the year?
It's a tough decision. I gotta either Bryson Stott or Gene Segura, because like both of them have been very, very good. And I gotta go with Gene Segura. Ever since he came back from that injury, he's been one dominant player. So I gotta go with Gino.
I see. Now I have been with this guy, and I have, supported him and praised him. And
you're not gonna say Mickey Moniak, are you?
No. I like M squared, but he's over in California now. But like Alec Baum is my Philly of the year.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
This is
He's
a
had
guy.
Really solid year.
This is a guy that led the team in batting average. At one point in time, between June and I think it was the month of June, he batted over 400. I mean, that's absurd. And this is the same guy that in the beginning of the year, a lot of people wanted to just give up on him, and they kind of just were like writing him off. And
he was playing like crap in April and May.
I agree, but here's the thing: is this is a guy that you could tell is mentally strong, because he basically compartmentalized all of that and said, "Listen, I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm better than this, and I'm going to show it." And look, his rookie season, he came in second place to Rookie of the Year. This is a guy who's a talent, and that's not something you see very often. In this organization, it comes around every once in a while, but not all the time.
Joe, I never thought for a minute that kid could play an adequate third base. I didn't think he was built for that, but he's turned into a better than serviceable third baseman. He's making plays that are difficult to make. He's not making the stupid mistakes he was making at the end of last year and the beginning of this season. He's gotten. You're right. I mean, if you got to consider it, I still go JT, but Alec Bohm is JT just noses him out at the wire as far as being the most valuable Philly for me.
Yeah, and I mean it's just amazing to me, because this is a guy that time after time I'm waiting for the fall off. Like we talk about Reese in the hot and the cold, and JT struggles in the beginning. I'm waiting for the fall off for Alec Baum, and it's really like it comes in little spurts. It doesn't come in long stretches, which is
that's good. That's good.
Fine.
Yeah. That's the problem with Rhys Hoskins is when he's hot, you can't touch him. When he's cold, he's a friggin' iceberg. I mean, and right now he's cold. He needs to wake up.
Well,
if they're going to finish this deal, he needs to wake up.
Reese had a good game last night. He had a 2-run home run. Yes, he had a good game last night.
Yeah, I was in transit. Like I didn't watch any of the game last night.
So the idea that and that's why I posed the question if this team is getting hot, because when Reese gets hot, we've seen this. He can carry a team for 2 weeks. So it's like, okay, is last night's game? I'm like, is this the signs that he's coming back around? And you got to think if Harper comes around and Schwarber, hits a couple dingers, and Gene And Alec, if you get all these pieces to start gelling, and I'll say this, a lot of people were worried and are worried about the amount of Phillies arms that are out there, whether it's the starting rotation or the bullpen. I've already heard this as a posed situation, and I think it's good. If you're talking about 3 starting pitchers, you're talking for the first round of the playoffs, you're talking Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger. Okay. Then you go and you have Eflin, Thor, and Gibson in the bullpen as your long relief. You're going to send down Nelson. You're going to send down like any other of the guys. Then you're going to have the setup guys in Alvarado, Roberson, and Dominguez, along with somebody else like why am I blanking on his name? But
Falter.
Bailey Falter, thank you. So you're going to have this idea that you're going to have some good arms in that bullpen that if you get in trouble early, you can rely on in the playoffs. You can stop the bleeding early.
I'll tell you what, Joe, if I'm pretty sure they're going to make it, but if they make the playoffs, I throw Nola game 1, I throw Falter game 2, and I keep Wheeler for game 3.
Keep that ace in the hole.
Well, the reason I say that is because since mid-August, Falter's been their best pitcher, starting pitcher. Okay,
absolutely.
Suarez has made an argument the last couple of weeks, but Falter has been their best pitcher. And if he gets in trouble early in the game, you can pull him and put Suarez in there in a playoff game because that's you would. And the reason I do, if the Phillies can steal 2 games and win in 2 games, then you open the next series with your hammer.
With Wheeler, yep.
Yeah.
And you know, like, and that is a very good point, is that, you know, you have that, and then even after that, if you're doing Nola, Falter, Wheeler, and you win that first series and Wheeler starts the next series, you can have Wheeler, Ranger, and then start
Nola.
the rotation.
Yeah, Nola. Wheeler, Ranger, Nola, Falter. I mean, it puts the Phillies in a really good position because if they have to play game 3, they're answering with their best pitcher.
Yeah. If
they don't have to play game 3, they're starting with their best pitcher.
Right.
You know, and so I think that's the way they should approach it. And Falk played well enough. I think he's young enough not to be overwhelmed by the situation. Just go, yeah, I'm a badass. I'm Dickie Knowles. You know, I'm Marty Bystrom. You know,
here's the thing: is he had very little to no pressure because no one had expectations that he's accomplished this season. Like no one thought this is what Bailey Falter's going to do. But we'll take it. I mean, we will gladly take it. And I mean, that is the admiration to this team right now.
The kid's got good stuff. Stuff. He's going to be on this rotation next year. He's going to be in the rotation next year.
Well, and here's the scary thing. Here's the frightening thing. The Phillies next year, and we're still worried about this year, but next year, you got to think about those pitchers in Abel and Painter and Gillis and whatnot that are going to come up and compete for a starting position. And good grief. I mean, you know, Wheeler, Nola, Falter, Ranger, and then 1 or 2 of those guys. I'm like, good luck. Like that is going to be a hellfire. And Dabrowski's going to have a good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's taken a couple of years. But Dombrowski's plan is working. You know, when Clintack left, I was like, oh my God, this could be a 10-year rebuild because he completely destroyed the minor leagues. But I think Dombrowski is the right tack. He's got the right kids in the minor league. What I think this does is puts them in a very enviable position of being able to trade some major league pitchers that are on their staff now in the offseason to acquire other pieces to augment what they have. I think they're I think you're going to see one or the other of these players playing for the Phillies next year. It's either going to be Bogarts or it's going to be Turner playing shortstop for the Phillies next year.
I would not hate either. I would
I
not
would
hate either
love
at all.
Bogarts.
Yes.
Bogarts
he's
is
a good
2 years
player.
younger than Turner. It's
And
going to
I-
cost us a lot of money, but he is worth it.
And I'll tell you this, both are excellent at the leadoff position.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
And I get that people are saying, well, wait a minute, you're going to replace Bryson Stott. No, you're moving Bryson somewhere
to
else.
where he should be. He should be at second base because Segura's going to be gone. They're not going to pay him that money.
No.
You know, if they're going to open up. There's going to be a lot of salary space open up next year, and I think they're going to go after one of those kids. I do.
Yeah. And you have to understand, like the idea that you have a Bryson Stott on this team only allows you, and Alec Baum on this team, it allows you. And I still feel like that Rhys Hoskins will not be on the team next year. I really
don't think he will either.
Because they see what's coming down the road. And the more and more this guy stays on the team, the more validity he's going to have in negotiating that. And I don't think they're going to pay him $20 million. He's just not that guy. I'm sorry.
Well,
he's just not.
Well, I think he has some trade value. I think they're I would not mind seeing Schwarber take over his first base spot. I think Schwarber's he's a dyed-in-the-wool first baseman. You know, he's, like I said, he's Dave Kingman. You know, he's the guy that next year should be batting fifth in the lineup.
Absolutely.
Should be batting fifth. Yeah.
This guy should already have 100 RBIs.
Yeah, but they needed him.
Easily.
They needed him where he played this year. They needed him there. You know, they absolutely did.
Well, I don't disagree that he thrived there, but I'm just saying, I'm a greedy person. I want more from what I'm already getting.
Yeah,
like
I know.
I said earlier, like Jonathan Gannon gave me some good things, but I want more.
Sure we do.
Schwarber gave me good things, but I want more because I know that it's possible. Like, that's the absurd thing is that Schwarber, this is his first year and he's over 40 home runs.
Yeah.
He's not leaving, like the ballpark is his friend. That's where I think his thrive is.
I think Castellanos had a rough year, but that's not how Castellanos plays. You're not going to get 2 years like this out of Castellanos. He's just too solid a player over his entire career. I think you're going to get a much better year out of him next year, especially if he doesn't have to play right field every day or play in the outfield.
Right.
Now that being said, is Bryce going to get the surgery at the end of the year? Because if Bryce gets the surgery at the end of the year, he ain't playing until August.
Well, from what I've heard, and this is what I've heard from a friend that was actually in the medical field, he basically said if he got the surgery at the end of the season, he wouldn't be able to take batting practice until mid-July.
You won't see him until August. Yeah. You know, I'll tell you what's really got me concerned is the fact that Sir Anthony cannot find the strike zone with his fastball.
It's not getting down. It's not getting down. He's elevating it way too much. And I basically said on plenty of occasions, when you elevate a fastball, it just flattens out and it looks like a beach ball to most hitters that can hit the ball.
Well, they're hitting his breaking pitches because he can't throw his fastball for strikes. He's inside, he's outside, he's up, he's down. It really has me concerned because that tells me there might be something wrong with him. There might be something physically wrong with him that didn't get fixed or may need to be fixed again.
Here's the thing is
you mean like he had a setback?
Yeah, I think there's a problem. I think because 3 weeks ago the guy was money. I mean, everything he was throwing he was diming. He was throwing dimes everywhere and they couldn't hit him. And all of a sudden his last 4 games, he can't find the strike zone. He can't find it. And that just tells me that he's overcompensating for something else, and that's got me worried.
So I have this interesting question that I want to raise to you guys. So with the Phillies going on the streak that they've gone through since June 1st, since Girardi was released, do you guys believe that this would be a division competing or division winning team if Thompson had the whole year?
I think so. I think I don't know if very possibly, yeah. Very possibly, yeah. They'd be up around. I think they'd be up around the Mets with the wins. Simply because see, the Mets so far in the early part of the season just owned the Phillies, but a lot of that was under Joe.
Yeah.
The team just has played under Hopper than they have Joe Girardi. It's just a different atmosphere, different attitude on the field. They have a different desire. And I mean, I don't care what anybody says, a manager has an effect on a team. And Joe Girardi had an effect on this team, and it was negative.
I mean, it's clear to me that was the case, because if you could look at the numbers and the stats and everything, and I know Matty B's like about to pull up a PowerPoint telling me how they're more similar than different, but my feeling is when you look at the stats for Rob Thompson and what he's done for this team since June 1st, and the reason why I brought this question up is because I'm like, 2 months in a baseball season is basically a quarter of the season. And so for me, it's like when you are only trying to chase playoffs with 75% of your season, your back is against that wall. And Rob Thompson, without fail, without sweating, without any of it, succeeded and over delivered, if I would say so, with how well he's done. Because usually when an interim manager takes over, there's not this big of a turnover. There's a reason why he's up for manager of the year. James, what do you think? What do you think this team would look like if Rob had the whole year versus Joe being released in June?
It would be kind of like what I thought Girardi was going to be. I think that's the biggest thing I could take out of it, is that Girardi was probably more like an analytics kind of guru kind of guy. And I think Rob Thompson was one of those guys that was like old school. I think that's the biggest thing.
He coaches by feel.
Yeah.
He coaches by feel, where Girardi doesn't. But, you can't look – I mean, Matty can pull out his PowerPoint all he wants, but PowerPoints don't show intangibles.
Right.
And Rob has put intangibles on the table that obviously have had a profound effect on this team. That they didn't exist before Rob was the manager.
Right.
I mean, the team was playing like dead fish under Joe Girardi. There was no they were getting their asses handed to them by the Mets and it didn't even bother them. This team does not like to lose, and this team does not stay down. That didn't happen under Joe Girardi, and that's an intangible you can't measure.
And I agree wholeheartedly, because the way I've kind of described the Rob Thompson era up to this point is clutch. Because I look at, and I'm going to get ridiculed for this. So like, the initial game when the Phillies, I think it was Thursday's game, when the Phillies were down 3-0 going into the 8th inning, I kind of turned the game off, and I was like, okay,
yeah, so did I. I'll be honest, I turned it off when that home run went out. I was like, oh my god, I don't want to watch the end of this. I don't want to watch the end of it. And then
I hear about what happened, and I'm like, hold up, what? And then I pull up on the DVR.
So I got to tell you this. Go ahead.
I pull up on the DVR. Go ahead.
And you watched it?
Yeah, I pulled it up on the DVR, and I said, okay, I got to see how they did this. And it was amazing to me. I'm like, this is a different animal. This is like they're never. They if that were Girardi, they're dead in the water. They're done.
Absolutely. My son came down the steps. He was watching it up in his bedroom. And he walked down the steps and he went, "You weren't watching, were you?" I was like, "No." He said, "You idiot. You missed the game." He said, "They won 4-3. I was like, "How'd that happen?" And he said, so I had to put Comcast Sportsnet back on to watch the end of the game. And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened." He said, "Don't turn it off, Dad." Don't turn it off. I said, well, I kind of got beat up the other night when it was 18-11. I didn't want to sit through another loss.
Yeah, yeah,
True,
and that's
true.
how I felt. I'm like, okay, I felt like I went 15 rounds in a boxing match at 18-11.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can do this
Yeah.
again. And
when he
sure
hit that
enough,
3-run homer, I thought that was a knockout blow. I thought that's it. They're gonna
I
fold.
did too.
Yeah,
I did too.
And I didn't want to watch
honestly,
it. I didn't want to watch it. It was too painful.
yeah, and you weren't alone. And
No.
honestly, when I heard about what happened, I literally stopped everything I was doing. I was like, hold up, I got to see what the hell happened now.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what? Wait, they won?
What?
I'm like, okay. And so, but that's the thing is this team just doesn't want to give up on anything. It could.
No.
I mean, I go back to there was a game where they were down by 2 or 3 runs. It was bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, 2 strikes, and somehow bases were loaded, and somehow I still felt like there was a chance. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is different. This is way different. And going forward with this team, I mean, it's going to make for really, regardless if they get eliminated in the wild card or get to the NLDS.
I just want them to get a taste. I want them to get a taste.
I'm with you. This is kind of like 07, 06. I want them to get a taste.
Yes.
I want them to get their toe wet in the pool. I want them to dip their toe in and say it's cold, but I'll get in a couple minutes. Okay.
Yeah,
fine.
I want them to have a taste.
So my feeling, and I still feel like this is true, I feel like this team could get to the NLCS. I feel like they're going to hit a team, whether it's the Dodgers or whatever, that are going to railroad them just with talent alone. And I hope, like you, it hurts. I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
Yeah.
But, I'm looking forward to this Red October. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to, being able to get in there and say, all right, now this is appointment television, especially with the upcoming basketball season, with the Flyers season, with the Eagles still playing high. This is going to be an exciting 3 weeks in the city of Philadelphia for sports.
Yeah. I don't know how exciting it's going to be for hockey, but for basketball, yes. Hockey, I'll be watching soccer games.
Listen, and I'll still go out on a limb and say this. And James, I know you'll rip me later, and that's fine. But I still feel like the Flyers could be a dark horse. A dark horse. I don't think they're as bad as we.
Did you say dead horse?
No, not dark horse.
Did you say dead horse? Oh, you said dark horse. You said dark horse. Okay. I said dead horse. Because you can't whip that sucker anymore.
No, you can't.
Done.
No, you can't. So guys, let's get a prediction for the rest of the series. What do you think happens with the Phillies and the Braves for the next 2 games?
I think they split. I think that I think they're going to split. I think and that's fine. I'm happy with 3 wins from the Braves. I have a friend of mine who's a Met fan who's just loving the fact that the Phillies beat Atlanta the last 2 nights. What did the Mets do last night?
Oh, I
Does
don't
anybody
know. I don't know.
I do not.
And
know.
what did Milwaukee do? What did Milwaukee do yesterday?
I don't know that either, but I do know that I think the magic number's in the single digits now. So, that's the thing is that number dwindles from game to game. And I'm in agreement with you that, if we have that playoff position locked before we get to Houston, I don't think you see much of anything. I think it's going to be very vanilla baseball, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't
Phillies
think
the Phillies can't play vanilla baseball right now. They blew their chance of playing vanilla baseball, losing 6 games in a row. They can't afford vanilla. No, they need Rocky Road, brother. They need Rocky Road.
James, what do you think about the rest of the Braves series? What do you think happens?
Yeah, I think they split too. I think that's the biggest thing I take out of it is that if they can win 3 out of 4, will be gigantic. But I think they split with Atlanta.
Last week Tom was on this show and he said, I see this team in the next 8 or 9 games going 4-4, 4-5.
That's what I said.
And honestly, I said, I don't like hearing it, but I don't disagree with it. Like I
was
it.
4-4. Last week's prediction was I thought they'd go 4-4.
Yeah.
If they win tomorrow, if they win tonight, then it's 4-4.
Right. And my feeling is this: is that I didn't like that, and Tom said neither do I. But we call it like it is, even if we don't like what we're calling. But
that being said,
they overperformed. The fact that I want to get on my red glasses on, and I want to say they're going to sweep these next 2 games. I really do, because I
love
want
for them to do that.
I know it's not realistic. I get that.
If they do, then they'll go into Houston and they'll already have a playoff spot clinched.
Right.
Because I think they're going to go 5-1 against Washington and Chicago.
Go ahead.
And I think the Houston games won't matter.
No, I agree, and I think they need that. I really do. And there's something to be said when you're going into Chicago. And keep in mind, you want Schwarber to kind of come back into a little bit of a hot streak. He's very comfortable in Wrigley. Very comfortable in Wrigley.
I want to see them stretch. I want to see them stretch Wheeler out a little bit more.
They did say yesterday that they were going to give him another 10 to 15 more. Yeah.
So he's going to get 65 to start the game. He's going to get 65 pitches to start the game. Because he was dynamite the other night. I mean, he was damn near unhittable the other night. I mean, it's like, why are you taking him out? Leave him in there. So,
I got to imagine that they were more than impressed with what his performance was, but they just don't want to. They don't want to play with fire.
They don't want to risk it. Right? They don't want to risk it, and I get it. I mean, if they can get him stretched out to 90 pitches by the time the playoffs start, that's a nice hammer to have. That's a really nice hammer to have.
So, before we wrap up for today, I wanted to get your takes on. There was a little bit of news that came out of Boston, and it had to do with the head coach of the Boston Celtics being suspended. Now, my question to you guys is the East for the NBA, for the Sixers. The East has gotten a lot stronger. The Cleveland Cavaliers made a big blockbuster pickup in Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell being in the East with that Cavs and the Hawks having the team that they have, and in Magic and the Pistons and the Bucks, this East is becoming a murderer's row of talent. Are you guys concerned now with the Celtics and their issues? With that being said, does that mean that the Celtics may not be doing well this year because of that discontent with the coach?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
Go ahead.
They're putting Stevens on the bench. That's not good news for the Sixers.
Okay.
When Stevens goes back on the bench, I'm sorry, that's not good news for the Sixers. That's a hell of a guy to have in your bullpen. He knows how to coach. Okay, so the Celtics are going to be murdered this year. They're going to be murdered. The Sixers better be on their game. They really should. Cleveland's going to be murdered this year. The Sixers are going to have to work their asses off to finish in the top 3 in this conference.
And, I said this to you a couple weeks ago, and now with this move from Donovan Mitchell and just with Boston. See, I feel like, yes, that I agree with you that it's not good news for Sixers fans, but
no, it's not.
I still feel like, I still feel like there's some going on up there in Boston that is still not being said to the media. Like there's
but it's not the play. It's not the players. It's not the players you're hearing about, Joe. I know it's behind the scenes, and the players don't care about that. The players don't care what happens in the front office as long as they get their check.
Well, I get that. I get that. But I'm just saying, like, when your coach is not the shining example of what you should be conveying. Sometimes that rubs off on the players, and I hope not. But to get,
I don't think it has any effect on the players at all.
Hey, to get in deeper to what the East is going to look like, with Cleveland's move to get Donovan Mitchell, you got Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Chicago. Now you have Cleveland. You have the possibility of Orlando or Detroit making a move up. You have, a lot of Boston, Miami. You have a lot of things going on as far as talent in the East. We used to say
the East is brutal this year.
We used to say the power conference was the West.
Not anymore.
I'm starting to think there's a paradigm shift, and now it's the East.
Well, they play a different kind of ball out west than the East plays.
Yeah.
The East is scratch and claw and beat the hell out of each other, where the West is a track meet. It truly is a track meet out there. They don't have teams that beat each other up like we do. We get to the end of the season, it's a slugfest. It's the survival of the fittest, and they're usually very battle tested for the final. The problem is when you get a team out of the East, especially as evenly matched as the top 6 teams in the East are this year.
Right.
They may not be in shape enough to play a track meet team.
That's true. We might beat the holy hell out of each other.
Right.
And by the time we get to the NBA Finals, the West is just going to be running around us. And we're just going to be hunched over going, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of part of the reason why I've been worried because of the schedule. But now because of all the moves that the teams in the East have made, you have this power conference. And now the Sixers have to keep in mind, look, you have a guy in Joel Embiid who should be the MVP, and you have a guy in James Harden that still, in my mind, has a lot of money. I'll take words from Jalen Hurts. He still has money left on the table. He has to prove that he still can, collect.
I don't know whether you guys noticed or not. When he was in the hallway with ball that's late.
Yeah.
What kind of condition he looked like he was in? He didn't look like he had any fat left on him. That boy looked like he was in shape.
Well, that's good to hear. But we still have to see how that translates on the court.
Well, if he picks up the half a step that he lost last year, that's not good news for the East.
Well, I'll tell you this: if James Harden, you say half a step, I say if he puts up a full step. And this is a guy that even can drop 30 and 10 a game. I mean, think about how much pressure that takes off a guy like Toby or Thibault or Maxey. I mean,
I'll make here's Joe. Here's a prediction you're going to love. If Harden gets back to 2/3 of what he was 4 years ago, okay. Maxey's going to finish the season averaging 25 to 27 points a game. Feast. Maxey's going to feast. I mean, that's what's going to happen because Maxey looks like he's ready to burst on. He really does. And if Harden is playing like that and they got to cover and beating Harden, there's plenty of meat left on the table for Maxey. He's going to feast.
Maxey was at a Phillies game a couple of weeks ago, and it's interesting because they asked him, what has he been up to for the summer? He says, I've been just working out, working on my skills, and in the gym. He said, I go to the gym 4 times a day. And I said, he does what now? And I'm like, what? 4 times a day? I'm like, what? Do you have a life? And
that's total Kobe. That's Kobe.
Yeah. And he's Kobe. Like, I get up at 5. I go to the gym from 5 to 7. I go and I have breakfast, and then I go back to the gym from 8:30 to 11:30, and then I go for lunch.
Right.
Then I go back for another hour and a half and do weight training, and then I do, I take a breath and I go over film, and then he goes back in at 4 o'clock and works till 7. And
let me tell you something.
Good grief.
If he's back If he comes back 10 pounds heavier than he was last year, the East is in trouble. The East is in big trouble because he will be with muscle. With muscle, he's going to be unstoppable. He's going to be unstoppable.
And I'm still of the opinion that he's a dog. Like he's got that dog in him, and I feel like I agree with you that if he puts on that weight, he's going to get closer to those comparisons of Allen Iverson coming to fruition.
Well, he's not going to be able to get out muscled. That's why I say if Harden comes back to close to what he was and Embiid comes back healthy, the defenses are going to collapse on those two guys, and he's going to be there to feast. And if he's improved his strength that much, I'm telling you, he's going to be 25 to 27 points a game. There's because he's already developed his outside shot. What was he, a 40% shooter last year from 3-point?
Correct.
Okay, so now you put some muscle on him, and he can go under the boards and muscle up a shot. He's going to feast. He's going to absolutely feast.
What did you guys think about Harden being at the Eagles game?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it just shows me that he's a Philadelphia fan.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved seeing the beard on the sides. I loved it.
I love that he was there. I also love that Mike Trout gave Bryce Harper his tickets.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. The Phillies supporting Philly. And with that being said, we are going to call it a show. James, take us away.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joey. It was a lot of fun, guys. It was a lot of fun, too. We want to thank our sponsors for this great show today. David Archeri at the Esquire at the Cherry Firm. If you need workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, criminal law, call them now at 610-565-0300. And the moment of truth time is finally here. Philly Sports Trips is finally going to be tomorrow on September the 25th, where the Eagles battle in the Commanders. It includes lower level
tickets,
bus, food, drink, and entertainment for only $325. Visit
www.
What's that?
1,200 knuckleheads down there. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and check it out at phillysportstrips.com, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Guys, it's been fun. I got to say, this has always been the funnest time to have. So for Joey Marks, for Frank Finnegan, Dave Yarnold, Damon Salim, and the man himself, Tom Kelly, and all the crew, this is James Gorgeous saying so long from here, and we'll see you next Saturday for another excitement of Pattison Ave Phantics. Have a good weekend,
Go Phils, go Birds!